We have three speakers, Dr. V.K. Subban, Dr. Keshav Murthy, Dr. G.S. Vander, and we have two moderators, Dr. Shiba, I think available, no? Yeah. And Dr. P.L.N. Kaparthi. Is he there? Madam, you can coordinate the session and please, I think already we are running late. You can proceed with the meeting.
Thank you so much. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah, a very good morning. We know we are through COVID-19 pandemic and extremely thankful to Dr. Sarath for having called us in this Hyderabad live for a very unique and a virtual meeting. And COVID is the talk of the day. Today morning's Google talks about a new mutation which has come in the coronavirus. It is the D614G mutation, which makes the spikes of corona all the more functional and having an increasing cell binding capacity. So this makes this virus all the more infectious than ever before and more stable. So having said that, as COVID continues to take its toll, I would like to invite our first speaker, Dr. Smith Srivastava, for his talk, The Spectrum of Cardiac Involvement in a COVID Patient.
Thank you, ma'am. And it's really has become a very important topic. Good morning to everyone from Raipur. We have moved from coronaries to corona because now our main engagement has for last 2 months has been more with corona than coronaries. And this is a very important topic because this has not only affected our patients, but it has affected the cardiologists world over more than any other physicians. So today I'll be discussing what are the acute and the long-term implications of corona. Just a brief about corona. It started with that coronavirus has been with us for lakhs of years, but it came into limelight with the SARS-CoV-1 virus, which was there in 2003. But it was limited to some 8,000 patients and did not cause much damage to the population at large because it had a very high mortality rate and therefore the transmission rates were very small. After almost 10 years, 2012, the MERS coronavirus came and that was spread through camels, but it was again limited to a geographical area of the Middle East with high mortality, again less transmission. But the newest variant, which is SARS-CoV-2 virus, which came from Wuhan in end of December to first week of the January, this has less mortality, and therefore a high transmission, and therefore why now the world is at a stake. The entry of this virus, how it is involved with cardiovascular system, the entry of this virus. Since the beginning of this virus, it involves ACE2 receptors in the type 2 pneumocytes, and then therefore the concern started very quite early that this would affect our cardiac patients in many ways, and the early mortality was also seen more in cardiovascular patients, elderly patients, and therefore the interactions or the relation between corona and cardiovascular disease patients was established. So the Wuhan study also suggested that other than age, the maximum patients who are victim of or died were belonging to the cardiovascular death or were having hypertension in the background. And therefore, again, the epidemiological correlations were set that corona and cardiovascular diseases go hand in hand. And this is what the high mortality in the cardiovascular patients, it established a link, and the link was sought. There were the 15% patients in Wuhan patients or epidemiology were having hypertension. The AC inhibitor receptor, not the AC2 receptor in the type 2 pneumocytes, they were entry point for this virus. And then alternative hypothesis also have recently come up that probably the AC2 may be beneficial for these patients. It may be protective, less harming for these patients, and that duality we'll see in the subsequent slides. The cardiovascular involvement, the key hypothetical mechanisms are taken as if that it can cause microvascular injury by endothelial dysfunction and then result in coronary artery plaque ruptures or myocardial infarctions. But the major scene has been because of the adrenergic overdrive or the cytokine storm that comes in later part of this disease because of the host response, and this results in acute adrenergic surge and more myocardial damages with plaque eruptions and with systemic inflammatory stress over heart. The direct myocardial injury, though, have been postulated, but they are not so far have been evident in most of the cases, especially in the autopsy cases. And whatever the cellular damage is seen is at the level of lungs, and that gets reflected back over the heart. And then there are involvement of antiviral in the anti-corona drugs like hydroxychloroquine and quinine, which can cause arrhythmias in themselves. Whole variety of presentation is seen with corona for cardiovascular presentations. They can present as ST elevation with typical pain, with typical ECG changes, cardiac biomarkers raising. And here the ACC guidelines do not suggest that we should get echo done for every patient, but only for the sicker patients and wherever it is deemed needed because of the chances of transmissions. The TE is definitely not suggested because of the fomite or the generation. The cardiogenic shock patients have presented with cardiogenic shock, and they have, for these patients, probably the circulatory support system devices are the ones which have pulled few of these patients out of the shock. The heart transplant is, as of, it has not taken place, but then it needs at least 2 PCR negative patients to undergo cardiac transplant, though there has been recent report of a lung transplant being done in corona recovered patient. And decompensated heart failure patients, this can worsen the disease because of the adrenergic crisis, and it causes almost 10 times to 15 times more mortality in those patients who have decompensated heart failure. The whole corona family has effects on cardiovascular system. It starts from shock, hypotension, to direct myocardial injuries, acute myocarditis seen, and then cardiac failures and different types of arrhythmias that happen in these patients. The effects are multifocal. It can cause type 2 myocardial infarction. It can cause type 1 myocardial infarction. The adrenergic crisis or the cytokine storm can cause stress cardiomyopathies. The tachyarrhythmias can be there because of the electrolyte imbalances or the hypoxic injury, and it can cause viral myocarditis. But the mechanisms, if we wish to understand in principle and for treating cardiovascular complications of corona, probably we have to limit ourselves to these basic 3 mechanisms. The first one is direct viral tissue invasion, and this too usually spares the heart. It involves more of the lung, and then the lung causes cardiac injuries. The second and the most important one is the abnormal host immune response, which causes the cytokine storm and results in sympathetic overactivity, cardiac myocyte changes, and the antiviral therapies which can cause QT prolongation and arrhythmias. The dilemma or the duality that I was talking about is seen in elderly, where they have lower ACE2 levels, and therefore the entry of virus in elderly is probably should be less. It is theoretically less, but because of the exaggerated angiotensin 2 signaling, the severity of the disease would be higher or would be worse in elderlies. And this is what we are seeing in most of the patients. So probably this hypothesis is true, that the elderlies are affected less, but once they are affected more severely. The viral affection, whether it causes a direct injury to the heart, again is in debate, and more chances that it does not involve the cardiac injury in the first 10 days. It is usually the aftermath, when the adrenergic crisis happens, that the cardiac involvement comes after 10 to 14 days of therapy. The coronavirus and arrhythmia, the exact prevalence is underreported or not reported, but the studies suggest that 7 to 17% of the patients have arrhythmias, and mostly it is in form of sinus tachycardias, though pathological arrhythmias like atrial fibrillation, flutter, and monomorphic or polymorphic VTs are seen. The New York study showed that their patient prior to any therapy had almost 6% of their patients had long QT. So we have to be careful that long QT is not as uncommon as we think before constituting the QTC prolonging drugs. And the Italian study, it also suggested that there is almost 1.5 times hike in out of hospital cardiac arrest. So this also tells us that the cardiac disease is not going away. So it is only happening out of hospital rather than previously as it was coming into our chambers or hospital. There is also suggestion of aggressive antipyretic therapy in form of acetaminophen, especially to prevent type 1 Brugada syndrome in the susceptible patients. Otherwise, the treatment for these arrhythmias remain more or less the same. The direct myocardial injury, as I said, does not seem to happen in these patients. It is usually either because of the respiratory failure or hyperimmune responses. This has come from the various autopsy series which have been seen, which have come from China as well as New Orleans or Hamburg autopsy series, where there were not seen much of myocyte necrosis, and therefore probably the direct injury do not happen. Whatever myocardial injury happens, it is usually tested by, quantified by rise in troponin, and whenever this happens, the death rates are almost 10 times than those where troponin was not raised. Similarly, for heart failure, again, the death rates are higher as compared to those patients who are not in heart failure. The diagnostic modalities are very limited. We can have transthoracic echocardiography to assess for heart functions, and the cardiac biomarkers and NT-proBNP do not here give a real value for money. The treatment should include the standard treatment and should include ACE inhibitors in there, and here mechanical circulatory support devices, they can help these patients. And transplant, as I said, should be done only after the patient is tested twice for PCR negativity. The antiviral drugs, they have shown in few studies, again, these are anecdotal studies, they are not large studies, but they have shown that the cardiovascular recovery is better in these patients. Another important thing which has come is the thrombosis and bleeding associated with corona. So corona, majorly because of the endothelial dysfunction, it results and hypercoagulable state, it results in more clots than bleeding. So all the three elements of the virtuous triad are affected by this endothelial injury because of the direct corona disease. There is stasis and hypercoagulable state because of the different coagulation factors are impaired. And this is well evident by the tests that are done. But here, one thing is important to realize that corona causes more thrombosis, unlike DIC, which causes more bleeding. And so, because of the higher chances of thrombosis, probably there are recommendations that higher doses of antithrombotic prophylaxis should be used in the sicker patients who are in ICU. Again, to understand the spectrum of the disease, the troponins can start rising early from 7 to 10 days, whereas NT-proBNP they appear later and more with the adrenergic drive that is sets in the later part. This I'll not be touching upon much because Dr. Wander would be taking how ST elevation MI patient needs to be treated. Mostly the punchline is, or the last line is, that they should be treated as conservatively as possible until unless it is a risk to their life. Another matter of concern in cardiovascular disease spectrum is use of renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system inhibitors. The RAS inhibitors, there is a concern because 60% of the population in India or the physicians, they use ACE inhibitor or ARBs in their patient, and there were concern because of the ACE2 receptor entry of the COVID. But none of the studies have epidemiologically shown that these are involved, and most of the though, and it has been also seen in this small study that stopping this drug, or those patients who are not on these drugs, and they need these drugs, they have almost 3 times higher mortality than the patients who were on ACE inhibitors and ARBs. Therefore, it definitely means that corona won't kill you, but coronaries will kill you if you are not on ACE inhibitors or ARBs. And therefore, we must be providing all patients, and these are the professional bodies that have suggested and clearly indicated that ACE inhibitors should be continued, and they should be instituted in those patients, though who are COVID positive, but have an indication for use of these drugs because they are largely life-saving. The AC and all professional bodies have come up with different guidelines, like the Society for Echocardiography. It suggests that the unnecessary echo interrogation should not be done, and echo interrogation should be done with proper PP. And in places where T is needed, if it can be deferred, it has to be deferred because it's again a aerosol generating procedure. Indian guidelines have also come, and they have incorporated ACE inhibitors and ARB use, and they have stressed upon conservative management of for acute coronary syndrome, and this Dr. Wander will be taking up. The last bit is about the drugs that are being used. The antivirals, they can cause derangement with the coagulant levels, as well as they can prolong the QTCs, and therefore these patients, whenever we are giving these drugs, we should be knowing that what drugs to start for corona, whether the antiarrhythmics are needed or the anticoagulants are needed to be lowered down. The QTC prolongation, probably now everyone is aware that these drugs should not be started with patients who have a higher QTC. The last slide is suggesting that we are still young in understanding this disease, and probably this disease can have a long-term implications in form of a corona myocarditis that can develop later on, or pulmonary fibrosis which can result in years, or can affect dyslipidemia and other CAD risk factors. And therefore, we still do not know much about this disease, how it is going to affect in years to come. Thank you.
So, thank you so much for a wonderful and extensive review of cardiovascular diseases in the COVID. We all know that the question answers are at the end. So, thank you so much. I would now like to invite our next speaker, Dr. Keshava Murthy. He's going to give a talk on cath lab activation in the COVID area, Indian scenario, when and how.